Going, bro. If you don't, I'll do it. How's it going, everybody out there in YouTube land? YouTube land. YouTube land. YouTube land. Yes. Okay. All right. So yesterday we talked about what a GCF was. Today we're going to talk about what do we do with it. Now, we would all agree that doing the distributive property is like what we did the entire chapter 7, right? That was like a ton of multiplication, and all we did was just do the distributive property. Now, no matter how many times we needed to, that's all we really did. Like foiling, that was just the distributive property.
When are we going to get our test score to look back?
I know. They're all graded. I just haven't inputted them into the computer yet. I got them all graded last night.
Okay.
I did. Hopefully tonight. Well, it all depends. I got to take my sick daughter to the doctor, so geez, Cole.
Yeah, Cole. Yeah, Cole.
Pump the brakes, Cole. All right, so this was last chapter, right?
Right.
What we're going to do now is go that way. Now, how do we know how to do that? Well, take a look here. What is unique about this 3 that goes on the outside? Yeah, but what is that called in between these two monomials? What's the 3 called? It's not just a factor, it's the greatest common factor.
Wow.
Look at the GCF between 3x and 3y. What is it? 3. That is what gets put on the outside of the parentheses. Okay? So, we learned about the distributive property, right? It said that we can take a number and put it into a set of parentheses. Now, what operation is just like factoring? What operation undoes multiplication? Division. So factoring is going to be a lot like division. A lot like division. You'll see here pretty soon. But what we're going to do is factor out our greatest common factor. We're going to divide out our greatest common factor and put it on the outside. So what does that mean? Take a look at this example here. I've got 2x squared minus 4. Ladies and gentlemen, what is my GCF between 2x squared and 4? 2, right? So if I were to truly factor out the 2, I would write it on the outside of parentheses. And then here's what I do with it. I divide it out of both of the terms. How do I know it's going to come out nice and even? Because it was a factor. Because it's going to divide out evenly. That's what a definition of a factor is. So what do we get when we remove the 2 out of 2x squared? Just x squared. What are we going to get when we remove 2 out of 4? 2, dividing it out. Now, how do I know that this is fully factored? Well, do the things inside the parentheses have any more common factors? No, we would say that the GCF would be 1 between those two values, right? That's how I know it's fully factored down. Now, it says to check your answer. I'm not going to force you into doing that, but how would you check your answer? You'd distribute. You'd remultiply, right? That's what you would do to check your answer. What would we get? 2x squared minus 4. Exactly what we started with. Bless you. Let's try the next one. Oh no, 3 terms. Don't freak out. Okay, so what do we do with 3 terms? The exact same thing that we do with 2 terms. What's my GCF of those 3 parts? The GCF would be 4. What else? Do they all share an x? So the GCF is 4x. Why not 4x to the second? Right, not all of them have the second power. You always go with the smallest power on x. So what do we do with it? Well, we divide out our GCF. Soon enough, like tomorrow, you're going to see me stop writing that step where we actually divide it. Okay, so what do we get with our first term? 2x to the second. Yeah, why is it to the second power? Well, because we subtract exponents. X to the third over X is X squared. Yeah, Lexi.
When you said that you do the smallest X power, is it like the X or
The
the
X
number
power.
in front of it?
The X power, the exponent.
Okay.
What do we get for my second term? What's 4 divided by 4? 1. What's X squared divided by X? X. So negative 1X or just negative X. What's 16x divided by 4X? Just 4, right? Just 4. The X's cancel. Do we have any common factors between all three parts left inside? No, then it's fully factored down. You may be thinking, whoa, I see a 2 and a 4 in there. That has common factors. But look at the middle term, it's a 1. Okay? It has to be within all three to factor it out. Take a look at this one. What do I not like about this problem? Or what do I need to do first, I guess I should say. I don't want to offend its feelings or anything. Sorry, part C. You are important too. Put it in standard form. Thank you, Lexi. Negative 12x squared minus 14x. Now, I'll teach you something here. I know, shocker. I'm going to teach you something. When it leads with a negative, you pull out the negative with your GCF. So what is the GCF between 12x squared and 14x? What's the GCF? What's the GCF? Nobody said it yet. Come on, full GCF. Elizabeth, what'd you say? I can't hear you. 2a? X. Yeah, I was like, why are you saying A? Negative 2x. Negative 2x is my GCF. 2 because 12 and 14 are both divisible by 2 and nothing bigger. X because that's the lowest power on X. Okay, we remove it by dividing it out. Start your parentheses and now start putting what you get when you divide it out. What's negative 12 divided by negative 2? Positive 6. I had x squared. I took out one of the x's. What's left over? Just x. Negative 14 divided by negative 2. Positive 7. And what happened to my x's? They're all gone. They canceled. Questions about that? Okay, let's keep it going. What do you notice about this one? 3's prime, 2's prime, 10's not prime, but what's my GCF of all those terms? 1. 1, right? Do they all have an x in common either? No. So here's what I'll say about this one. I could either accept that you could call it prime, or if you wanted to say not factorable. For right now, both of those statements will tell me the same thing. There's nothing you can do to it. It is factored as it sits right there. There's nothing more that you can do to that. Take a look at the next one. This is the word prime or not factorable. Prime or not factorable. Right, I'm telling you, I thought you were like, wait, don't go on. Not factorable. Yeah. What's my GCF here? 4. For what? 4x. Yeah. When I ask you what the GCF is, let's start saying the variable with it too. So 4x. Okay, what's left over? 5x squared plus what? Well, the x's canceled. The 4's Do they cancel?
No.
1. Yeah, a lot of people might tell me that I shouldn't write anything here, which is not the case. When you have the same thing over the same thing, 4x over 4x, it's 1. Not nothing. It's 1. Okay? And that's my answer. What's my GCF here? 4M. 4M. Leaving us with, well, what's 4m to the 4th divided by 4m? M to the 3rd. Minus what? 3m plus what? 2. That way it was never mind, it was laggy. Let's take a look at this one. What's my GCF between those two values? Be careful. What's my GCF between those two values? Is there any GCF between the two numbers, 18 and 7? No, 7's prime, and 18 is not divisible by 7. So what's the GCF between those two values? 1, and then what's my variables? Y squared, right? And what does this lead with? It leads with a negative, so we pull out the negative. So the GCF is negative y squared. Negative divided by negative is a positive. The 18 stays, not touching the number. What does the y turn into? What's y to the 3rd over y squared?
Y.
Just y to the 1st, or y. And then, what do I write? Plus
7.
Plus 7. I'm not touching the number, right? That's my answer. Now, you may be thinking to yourself when you flip over to the back, whoa, these problems look really difficult. Not so. Okay? The problems on the back really are just there to prepare you for what we're going to do tomorrow. Notice that this is section 8.2, day 1. What we're going to do tomorrow is factor 4-term polynomials. Okay? So take a look and see what I've got here. Sometimes the GCF is not just a number or not just a variable. Sometimes it's an entire binomial. Guys, eyes up on the board real quick. Take a look here and here. What do those two blue underlined pieces have in common? What do those two blue underlined pieces have in common? They both contain an x plus 2. So what's my GCF of those two big underlined pieces? X plus 2. So what do we do with my GCF? We write it on the outside. And then on the inside of the parentheses, we write what's left over after we remove it. What's left over after we remove x plus 2 from my first term? Just a 5. What's left over after we remove x plus 2 from the second part? Just a 3x. Okay? Don't worry too much about these ones, guys. Again, they're there to prepare you for what we're going to be doing tomorrow. What's the GCF of my two big parts here? Z squared minus 7. So that goes on the outside. And then on the inside is what's left over. What is left over here? 4z plus 9. follow me there? Let's do one more of those. What's my GCF? B squared plus 1. What's left over? Negative 2b plus 1. Good. I'm glad we said plus 1. Don't worry about the negative that it led with. I know I would do something different. But the key here is to see that it's not just a number. It's not just a letter. Sometimes it could be a full binomial that's a GCF. Take a look at your last one. For some reason, I don't have it on my screen. Look at my two things in parentheses. Do they have anything in common? So what would you say? Prime or not factorable. Okay. Guys, this has to be true. You have to have the same thing inside the parentheses to be able to pull it out. It's got to be common. If it's not common, you can't do anything with it. Everybody say bye to YouTube world.
Bye, YouTube world.
So long.
Please like and subscribe.
Please like and subscribe. I want to become YouTube famous. Bye, everyone.